The manila envelope hit my coffee table with the weight of a grenade. My mother-in-law, Pamela, stood across from me, designer handbag clutched like a weapon, the word divorce, visible in bold type through the translucent paper. My ears filled with a strange underwater sound as I realized what she'd done. "The next step," she announced, her voice crisp in my hospital-weakened state. "Since you couldn't be bothered to attend your brother-in-law's wedding." I gripped the edge of my blanket, the IV bruise on my arm still fresh from yesterday's discharge. Every heartbeat sent a throb of pain through my healing ulcer, but the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the betrayal washing over me in waves. Daniel hovered between us, my soup growing cold on the counter, his eyes darting between his mother and me with dawning horror. He had returned early this morning from the Mountain Lodge wedding, concerned when I texted that his mother had called to stop by. This wasn't just another boundary crossed. This was declaration of war in my own living room. My name is Catherine. I'm 33 and a senior financial analyst. This is the story of how I reclaimed my marriage from the woman who thought she owned it. The ground had been shifting beneath us for years. Daniel and I never fit the mold Pamela designed. Her son, my husband, had abandoned his high-stress marketing career before we married, preferring the quieter rhythm of managing our home while I climbed the corporate ladder. I brought the paycheck. He brought warmth and balance to my structured life. Pamela never accepted this arrangement. At first, her disapproval came in small doses. Backhanded compliments about my masculine ambition, pointed questions about when I'd start cooking proper meals. But over time, her campaign intensified. "You look perfectly fine to me," she'd said 3 days ago, standing beside my hospital bed, arms crossed over her cashmere sweater. "You're upright, typing away. If you can work, you can certainly attend a wedding." I'd just had emergency surgery for a bleeding ulcer. The doctor had given strict orders, 5 days minimum bed rest, no travel. "I'm on intravenous fluids," I'd explained, gesturing to the tube in my arm. "I physically cannot leave." Her nostrils had flared. "If you don't come tomorrow, Catherine," she'd hissed, leaning closer, "don't bother coming back into this family. In fact, divorce Daniel. If you can't respect family obligations, you don't deserve him." I'd pressed the nurse call button without breaking eye contact. When the nurse appeared, Pamela had been escorted out, but her threat lingered like a toxin in my bloodstream. I hadn't told Daniel. I'd let him attend his brother's wedding in peace, thinking I could handle his mother myself. That decision now seemed painfully naive as she stood triumphant in our living room, divorce papers laid out like a trap. She must have used her spare key, the one we'd given her last year for emergencies, to let herself in while I was resting. "What is that?" Daniel asked, his voice tight. "The papers your wife promised to sign if she didn't show up at Jeremy's wedding," Pamela replied, satisfaction edging her words. "I'm just helping her keep her word." Daniel's confusion morphed into something harder. "What are you talking about?" "She came to the hospital," I said quietly, watching his face. "Barged into my room, told me to get dressed and show up to the wedding or else get out of your life." The color drained from his face. "You went to her hospital room? When she was recovering from surgery?" Pamela waved dismissively. "She was fine. Sitting up, working on her laptop." "Because I had a deadline," I countered, feeling my heart rate accelerate. "That doesn't mean I could travel to a mountain lodge with a bleeding ulcer." "A convenient excuse," she sniffed. "I was protecting your reputation, a wife who doesn't show up for family events." "You threatened my marriage while I was hooked to an IV, I interrupted, my voice steadier than I expected. "That's not protection. That's sabotage." Daniel moved between us, his normally gentle features hardening. "Mom, you crossed a line." "I protected you," she shot back, suddenly defensive. "She's made you her servant. You fold her laundry, cook her meals. What do you get in return? Tired looks and tax forms." "Enough," Daniel warned, but Pamela leaned forward, voice rising. "She's not a wife. She's a user. You've forgotten who you were before her." The room seemed to compress around us. 3 years of accumulated resentment crystallized in that moment. I stood despite the pain in my abdomen. "No," I said firmly. He found who he was. I picked up the envelope, flipping through its contents. Everything was there. Every form meticulously prepared, as if she'd been planning this ambush for months. A strange calm settled over me. I turned to Daniel. "You want me to prove something?" I grabbed a pen from the side table and signed my name across the bottom line, my signature cutting through the page like a boundary drawn in permanent ink. I slid the papers forward. "There," I signed. "Now it's your turn." Daniel blinked. "What?" "Not on paper. With words," I clarified. "Right here, right now. Not next week, not after thinking it over." Pamela folded her arms, smug. "He doesn't need to think. He's my son." She turned to Daniel, her voice softening to something practiced and familiar. "I raised him. I was there for every scraped knee, every late-night fever. I built this man. You just moved in and took credit." Her attention swiveled back to me, eyes narrowing. "You think making more money means you get to make the rules. You're a leech. You don't cook, you don't clean. You work 80 hours a week and expect him to pick up the slack. My son deserves a wife, not a roommate with a spreadsheet." I felt Daniel tense beside me, but kept my focus on him. "I've never asked you to choose until now," I said quietly. "But you can't keep trying to make peace between two people who are tearing you apart." He closed his eyes, breathing shallow. Pamela moved closer, her perfume heavy in the air between us. "Sweetheart, don't do this," she coaxed. "You know, I only want what's best for you." Daniel opened his eyes. "And what if she is the best?" Pamela flinched as if struck. "You're not thinking clearly." "I am," he replied. "For the first time." Her composure cracked. "She's turned you against your own mother." Daniel looked at me, then back at her. "No," he said firmly. "You did that yourself." Pamela's face contorted with rage. She turned to me, voice rising to a pitch I'd never heard before. "You've brainwashed him. He feeds you, cleans for you, serves you like a butler. And you, what do you even do? You sit back and let him carry everything like some entitled queen. You're a parasite." The accusation hung in the air. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, but clarity. I looked her directly in the eye and replied without flinching. "No, Pamela. He doesn't feed me. I feed both of you." The silence that followed was absolute. Pamela's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. For the first time since I'd met her, she was speechless. "William left his job before we got married," I continued calmly. "It was his choice. He hated the corporate grind, so I said, 'Let me handle the finances and you build the life around us.' That was our deal." She was blinking rapidly now, as if trying to process information that wouldn't compute. "For the last 3 years, I've paid the rent, the utilities, the groceries." I leaned forward slightly. "The gifts you bragged about to your friends, the checks you thought were from him, that was me, Pamela. I budgeted for you like another household expense." Her skin turned ashen. "But he sent money every month," she protested, voice suddenly small. "For gas and my HOA fees." "Yes, because I gave him a line in our budget called Mom," I replied. "I paid your heating bill last winter. I covered your overdraft twice this year. And the catering for Jeremy's rehearsal dinner? That charge went through on my card because your son asked me to help, and I did." Quietly. Pamela looked down at her hands. The silence that followed was different, no longer tense, just defeated. "You made me out to be a burden," I continued, each word measured. "A parasite. But you've been eating from my table this whole time." Daniel finally spoke. His voice was gentle but firm. "I was going to tell you, Mom. I just didn't want to embarrass you." Pamela still wouldn't look at us. Her shoulders, always squared like armor, now sagged visibly. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't realize." "That was the point," I said. "I never asked you to be grateful, just to be kind." She stared at the floor. "Why didn't you say anything before?" I tilted my head. "Would it have changed anything?" Would you have treated me like family if you'd known I was paying your bills? Her silence was answer enough. Daniel stepped toward her slowly. Mom, we've tried. But this can't continue. You've made Catherine feel like a guest in her own life, and I've let it happen. That stops today. She looked up at him, eyes glossy with unshed tears. You're really going to cut me off? I'm going to set boundaries, he clarified. What you do with them is up to you. There was a long pause, and then, as if a switch had been flipped, Pamela's voice changed, becoming pleading, fragile. I'm sorry, she said, voice cracking. I didn't realize I was hurting you both. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know the full picture. I remained still, studying her performance. Catherine, she said softly, you're right. I crossed a line. I shouldn't have gone to the hospital. I shouldn't have brought these papers. I didn't want to lose my son, and I thought you were taking him from me. I observed her trembling lip, her slumped posture. It might have seemed sincere if I hadn't witnessed this exact routine before. Right after every boundary she pushed, every time she got caught. But the problem wasn't whether she meant it. The problem was I didn't care anymore. I appreciate the apology, I said evenly, but I don't trust it. Catherine, please. I'm not asking for anything, Pamela, I interrupted. You did. You asked for divorce, for ultimatums, and now you've got them. Daniel nodded slowly. We're moving. She jerked toward him. What? We've already been talking about it, he explained. Catherine needs distance to heal. I need it too. We found a new place. The lease starts next month. And I'm not giving you our new address, I added. Her face collapsed. You can't mean that. We do, I said. She stood suddenly, as if she might try to grab the papers or throw something or simply disappear. But she didn't. She just looked around the room, taking in the reality. This wasn't her house. This wasn't her son's life. It was mine, ours, and she had no power here anymore. When you're ready to treat both of us with respect, Daniel said, you can call. Until then, this is goodbye. She didn't say anything, didn't cry, didn't scream, just nodded barely and walked to the door. It clicked softly behind her. That night, Daniel tore up the divorce papers Pamela had brought. These weren't even filed, he said, examining the unofficial forms. Just scare tactics. We reaffirmed our commitment then, our marriage stronger than ever despite her attempts to break it. 3 weeks later, we carried the last of our boxes into the cozy brownstone, 2 neighborhoods over, farther from Pamela, closer to my office. My ulcer had finally healed completely, the doctor giving me a clean bill of health at my follow-up appointment. Daniel found a part-time position managing a local community garden that he loved. I let go of a few client accounts and started leaving work by 6 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. We learned to slow down together. That evening, as we finished unpacking the essentials, my sister Nora came over with wine and snacks to help us celebrate our first night in the new place. So that finally blew up, huh? She asked, uncorking the bottle. I wouldn't call it an explosion, I replied, arranging cheese on a board Daniel had made. More like a surgical cut. No drama, no revenge, just release. As for Pamela, word spread quickly throughout the family. Jeremy called Daniel the week after the wedding, and when Daniel explained what had happened, Jeremy told his new wife. She was furious to learn about Pamela's attempted sabotage of our marriage the same weekend as their wedding. Their relationship with Pamela soured immediately. Last I heard, Pamela was still living in that too-big condo alone, sending carefully worded texts on holidays. Daniel responded politely, but nothing more. Our marriage remained solid, with no further thoughts of divorce. The exact opposite of what Pamela had intended. She had spent so long trying to control her children that she forgot how to simply love them. And love, unlike guilt, is not a guarantee. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.